Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. So we are from Group 4. We'll be presenting in this video the legal protection of student rights at University Utara Malaysia. Let's begin with a quick background. My name is Nur Kamarina binti Soni, number metric 293778. Will be the first presenter of this presentation. Malaysian universities, including UM, operate under the legal framework of A242, which defines student conduct and university authority. While reforms have granted more student freedoms, there are still lingering concerns about how effectively these rights are protected and enforced. UUM, being a public university, is expected to uphold both national standards and its own policies. The study aims to assess if the existing protection mechanisms are genuinely adequate and fairly applied. Although there are laws like A242 and internal university policies meant to protect students, their real-world application is often unclear. Many students are unaware of their rights or unsure where to seek help when facing issues. The disciplinary process can sometimes feel opaque and overwhelming. This raises a critical question: are the current legal and administrative frameworks at UM truly adequate in protecting student rights, or are there hidden gaps that leave students vulnerable?
I will now present the research questions that guided our study. For this research, we developed 4 key questions. The first question is, what are the forms of legal protection of students' rights? This question helps us identify the legal sources and instruments such as AUKU, the Federal Constitution, and UUM's internal regulations that exist to protect students' rights within the university environment. The second question is, to what extent are student rights legally protected and effectively enforced at University Utara Malaysia? Here, we're not just looking at whether the rights exist on paper, but also whether they are truly implemented and accessible to students in real life. Our third question asks, what gaps, ambiguities, or inconsistencies exist in the current legal and administrative frameworks that may hinder the protection of student rights? This allows us to critically assess if there are any unclear or contradictory rules that may affect the effectiveness of those protections. Finally, the fourth question is, what measures can be taken to strengthen institutional accountability for protecting the students' rights? This is where we move towards recommendations by proposing reforms or strategies that can make the system more transparent, accessible, and fair for students. These 4 research questions help guide the structure of our literature review, data analysis, and findings. They also ensured that our study remained aligned with both doctrinal legal analysis and practical concerns affecting students on campus.
My name is Siti Zulaka binti Muhammad, so I will proceed to the research objective. First one is to examine the form of legal protection of the student rights. The second is to examine the legal and institutional frameworks governing the student rights, including their implementation and enforcement in University Utara Malaysia. And the third one is to identify and analyze the existing gaps, ambiguities, or inconsistent in laws, policies, and practice that may undermine the effective protection of student rights in UUM. Then, lastly is to propose the practical and legal measure to enhance the institutional accountability and improve the protection of student rights within the UUM. Next is scope of research. I will go one by one, which is the first one is geographic focus. The geographical focus of this research is limited to University Utara Malaysia, which is UUM, a public university located in Sintok, Kedah. The study focused only on legal protection and institutional context on campus at UUM. The legal protection and institutional context related to the higher education institution in Malaysia or internationally are not considered in this research. UUM was selected due to its status as one of the leading public universities in the country and its representative nature within the Malaysian tertiary education system. By limiting the geographical scope, the research can critically examine the particular legal document, policies, and practice that regulate the student rights in UUM, which involves the internal disciplinary procedures and the administrative system. The targeted approach enables deeper and contextual examination of whether or not the university is effective in protecting and enforcing the student rights according to Malaysian laws and internal governance. The next one is legal focus. As for the legal focus, the research focus on the legal frameworks encompassing the statutory law, the federal constitution, and legal institutions in Malaysia that regulate and protect student rights, with specific emphasis on implementation at University Utara Malaysia (UUM). The primary legal reference include the Universities and University College Act 1971 (UUCA), the Federal Constitution of Malaysia, and the internal rules and regulations of UUM. The research also considers the now repealed student disciplinary rules of UUM 1999, which remain relevant for analysis due to their historical and legal implication. Specifically, this study conduct a critical analysis of these legal sources to assess how the student rights are defined, restricted, and protected. The next one is key areas of focus, include the freedom of association within the student organisation, access to justice in disciplinary procedures, and protection against discrimination. In addition, the research evaluates the effectiveness of this legal provision in practice, identify any gaps, ambiguities, and inconsistencies that may exist. The last one is employing the doctrinal and analytical approach. The study aims to provide a comprehensive assessment of the role of law as a protective instrument for students within the university setting, which is UUM. The student aims to access the legal protection that are currently available to and accessed by UUM students, noting that this could help with degrees of institutional accountability as well as the student overall legal literacy. That's all for me. Thank you.
So, good day everyone. My name is Emila and the message number is 299195. And then we'll be presenting the methodology part in our study. The part methodology is explain the method used to meet the research goal about student rights at UUM. The research design is the main plan that organizes all the parts of the study to ensure the research problem is properly addressed. It guides data collection, analysis, and evaluation. This study uses an analytical and critical legal research method. The analytical part examines legal sources such as the Constitution, law, university regulation, and court decision to understand student rights at UUM. The critical part assesses the effectiveness of current legal protection, identifying gaps, evaluation, implementation, and offering insight into existing practice. The research approved in our study is use qualitative method to better understand how student rights are protected at UUM. The data collection method is to identify the legal framework governing student rights. Primary legal sources are analyzed is Federal Constitution of Malaysia, University and University College Act 1971 (UUCA), UUM's Constitution Regulation and relevant court cases. Supplementary data from journal, article, legal commentaries, and report provide critical insight into practical application and gaps list protection. So let's continue to the analysis part. In this study, data is analyzed using qualitative doctrinal method to analyze legal material such as law, constitutional provisions, and court cases used to identify rule protecting student rights at UUM. The analysis focuses on interpreting legal texts, their scope, and practical application within the university context. To support the context, the insight gained secondary Sources such as journal articles and legal commentaries will be critical examined. Through legal reasoning, the study evaluates the framework effectiveness, limitation, and potential reform, ensuring conclusions are grounded based on authoritative legal source and academic interpretation. So for the last part of the methodology is the ethical consideration. This study maintains academic integrity through proper citation of source, which is APS 7 edition, ensuring objective accuracy and fairness in analyzing legal and academic material. All interpretations are grounded in document, fact, and authoritative sources, adhering to UUM guidelines while upholding original and honest scholarship.
Moving on to the literature review, we begin with an overview of legal protection and its typologies. The main legal framework that governs students' rights in Malaysian public universities is the Universities and University College Act 1971, or known as AUKU. It was originally introduced to maintain administrative order during political instability. However, the act has been widely criticized for restricting student freedom. According to Gumis et al., certain clauses in AUKU, like those that prevent students from joining associations or political activities, are seen as violating human rights. These restrictions go against Article 10 of the Federal Constitution, which guarantees freedom of speech, assembly, and association. Next, legal protection is only meaningful when students are aware of their rights. A study by Nur Azura Abdul Rahman found that most UM students only had a moderate understanding of the Internal Security Act, or known as ISA, which also impacts civil liberties. This suggests a broader issue. Many students may not fully understand law like AUKU, making them more vulnerable to unfair treatment. While this study also noted that students who were more informed tended to be more critical of how these laws are enforced. In terms of judicial support, the UKM4 case in 2011 was a major turning point. The Court of Appeal ruled that Section 15(5)(a) of AUKU was unconstitutional because it violated students' freedom of expression. Although this case was seen as a big win, many university-level rules still remain unclear or restrictive. As a public university, UM is expected to ensure that its disciplinary procedure align with constitutional rights. This opens up an important area for future research, whether students at UM are truly protected in practice and if they have access to legal remedies when their rights are violated. Thank you.
Moving on, I'd like to briefly explain some of the limitations of our research. First, this study relies entirely on doctrinal and qualitative legal analysis. That means we did not include empirical data like surveys, interviews, or case studies involving students or university staff. So, while our findings are legally grounded, they don't reflect personal experiences or perceptions. Second, we were limited to publicly available documents. Certain internal university policies or disciplinary case records were not accessible. This could have provided deeper insights into how rights are actually enforced at UUM. Third, as with many legal studies, our analysis is interpretative. While we base our arguments on authoritative sources, different interpretations of legal texts by courts or university authorities may produce slightly different conclusions. Fourth, our study only focused on University Utara Malaysia. Because of that, the results cannot be generalized to other universities in Malaysia or abroad. And finally, the research is time sensitive. Any future amendments to AUKU, the Federal Constitution, or UUM's regulations may affect the relevance or accuracy of our findings. Despite these limitations, we believe the research still offers meaningful legal insights and useful recommendations for improving student rights protection at UUM. Now, I'd like to explain the significance of this research, why it matters. Firstly, our study helps to fill a gap in the current body of legal research. While there's general discussion about student rights in Malaysia, there's limited focus specifically on how these rights are applied and protected within UUM. Secondly, the research aims to promote legal awareness. Many students are unaware of the rights they actually have under the law and university regulations. Our findings highlight the need to make legal protections more accessible and understandable. Third, the study supports institutional improvement. By identifying gaps or ambiguities in current policies, we hope to guide UUM towards reforms that enhance student protection and transparency. Fourth, it provides useful insights for decision makers, whether in university management, policy circles, or legal education. Our analysis can help them improve systems and ensure accountability. And finally, this research contributes to the wider academic discourse. It adds new legal perspectives on student rights and governance within public universities in Malaysia. In short, we hope this study can be a small step toward a fairer, more rights conscious academic environment. To conclude, our research shows that legal protections for students at UUM do exist through AUKU, the Federal Constitution, and university rules. However, in practice, these protections are not always effective. This is due to unclear rules, lack of transparency in disciplinary processes, and low awareness among students. We also found several gaps and weaknesses in the current legal and administrative systems that need to be addressed. Because of this, we suggest that UUM should improve its policies, promote legal awareness, and make sure students' rights are respected and enforced properly. With the right reforms, UUM can create a fairer and more rights-based academic environment for all students. Thank you.